I don't like that they made it a
should not
click.
take that many. Like, there shouldn't be that many levels. Although this is a good vibe.
This is a good vibe. We got the Ruth Gator.
Dude, this
Bader.
my living
Ruth Bader Rinsberg.
my living conditions are ridiculous.
Chris, you gotta hold the mic.
Wait, when do we start? Do I need to hit the button?
No, we're
We've been
rolling,
recording for like 3 minutes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it, huh?
Don't worry about fucking time.
Nick, remember when we got really into The Sopranos?
Yeah, that's an easy show to get into, though.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I don't think there's one of those. That might be one. No, I haven't seen it. But there's some show that's like that like a family member of mine was like a writer on it
A few friends
and wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. And so then I was like, no, I'm not watching.
All right. Well, if it wasn't The Sopranos,
But I don't think it was because The Sopranos is like really big, right?
Yeah.
It was a show that was like on the network TV.
dude, it was
wasn't
one
as
of the first good shows.
any show that or anything that has to do with like Italians, like it like disqualifies it in my mind from being good. Because
I would
it's just
say
the
that-
whole like,
Yeah, but look, I hate Italians as much as the next guy, but something about mob stuff is just so comfy.
It's so comfy.
comfy. Interesting.
Yes, it really
So
is.
do you
Yeah.
think Godfather is comfy?
No, because that's boring.
This is too boring to be
Wow,
comfy.
that's a crazier
Like,
take than me saying I've never seen
Because
it.
Sopranos is actually like very funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that show also have like 50 seasons or something?
No, I don't think so.
What am I thinking of?
They're calling it emotional liberty. It used to be called being nice to your friends, and now it's like, I got to do emotional labor.
Now there's a fucking union.
We're not allowed to talk about TV or movies, so this whole
Also,
fine.
like,
It's-
no one who listens to podcasts has watched The Sopranos. So
that's
That's
not
absolutely
true.
not true. People who listen to podcasts are like overweight 30-somethings, and that's also the demographic that loves
that
The
is,
Sopranos.
yeah.
you really think that's the dominant podcast demographic?
No, I don't think. I think everyone. If podcasts is like YouTube. Like everyone is in some way. Dude, my mom fucking sends me podcasts.
The only podcasts I listen to are sports.
Okay, that's fine. But like the point is that like podcasts are an established medium.
No,
Please
of course,
sponsor us.
Yeah, you're. I don't know if this is bleep out section or not, but your uncle was telling me, he's like, yeah, you should consider writing music for Alex's podcast. And I was like,
Which you didn't say that you were a
I was
co-host
like,
on. You like,
yeah, I'll ask him about it. Oh, he's doing a podcast, is he?
That's
interesting.
Really,
you never told me.
That's really funny, dude. Dude, I really hope none of it. Like sometimes, like I was listening to an older episode today. I was like, wait, fuck, like. Our parents are like, oh, it's so cool. Alex has a podcast. I was like, yeah, but I hope they never fucking listen
Have
to.
they listened?
At least not the episodes that I'm on.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think.
Wait,
they
what?
have.
What do I talk about?
No, not you. Me. I'm self-centered.
Okay.
I just like.
Yeah,
like
Nick-
literally, dude. Last episode we opened about like my drug intake problems, which like honestly, in an absolute perspective, aren't even that bad. But like, I don't want them fucking hearing that.
Nah, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. All right, guys.
I can, even though we don't like have a following yet, just the number of times we've done this, I've gotten over that because I had it back. Like I couldn't the first 15 or so episodes of the never to be named again previous podcast. Like I couldn't, after editing them, I would never re-listen because I would cringe at myself, and it just like went away after.
Yeah,
like,
we're
20
old.
Yeah,
episodes
I
or so.
actually really liked the first episode that I was on, and then I listened to the one that we did like last weekend, and I was like, oh god.
Yeah,
like,
you shared some shit that you don't want. everyone
No, it
listening
wasn't
about.
even that. That was actually fine. It was like as the end, as I started getting drunker, I just like didn't shut the fuck up, and it was like, oh my god, dude. Like,
Dude,
Well, that was
Chris,
my.
You shared a lot of shit
about your butthole.
about your butthole.
Yeah. No, I talk about my butthole a fair amount. Probably more than I'm probably in like the 99th
Clip it.
percentile of people talking about their buttholes. Like I talk about it a lot because it's a big part of my life. I've got a very unhealthy butthole.
That's valid.
It's something I got to deal with.
Is it your
so-
whole butthole, or is it the butthole, or like the whole system?
It's the whole system, but it's just the
So
butthole that
I feel
sees
like blaming the
worst.
butthole is like shooting the messenger. Like that's
No, it's not the
it's
not the
not
butthole's
fair.
fault. It's just like unfortunately the
Well,
butthole gets
you know, if
fucked
I
over
was
the most.
if I was the butthole, I might feel a little bit like you were making it my fault.
Well, I don't give a fuck about my butthole. I'll fuck my butthole in the fucking ass. I don't
That's meta, man.
Can you imagine? What if I could bend my dick backwards?
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, I definitely tried that when I was like 13.
To bend your dick?
Yeah, see if I could fuck myself in the
Were you worried?
ass.
Weren't you worried about breaking it though?
Well, no, you just do it when you're like halfway. You know, you get to that point where it's like most of the
yeah.
length is there, but you haven't really filled out the like solidity.
Yeah.
That was
That
when I
lasts for a
tried it.
while, like post coming too.
Right.
That's the real time to like play around with like big soft dick.
Yeah, but then you don't want. Yeah, but then you just came, so you don't want to. There's
Oh, yeah, no, you don't
motivation to
want to.
fuck your own ass.
yeah, no, you're not gonna do anything that's like horny based. It's more just like, oh, I've got a fucking penis. Let me play around.
When you're working up to fucking yourself in the ass, like you got to be riding the razor's edge between not being so hard that you like
Exactly.
can't do it.
It's really, dude, it's an art as much as it is a science. There was one beautiful period of my life where I had finished puberty enough that like my dick had finished growing, but like I hadn't started filling out yet, so I was like really skinny and I could get the head of my dick into my own mouth, and that was pretty cool.
Could you really? Wow.
I could also do that.
That was like
I genuinely have never tried that.
dude,
It
I
was
got
not
to
everything
up to
it's cracked
some
up to
weird shit when I was because the plus side is you get your dick sucked. The minus side is you have to suck a dick. So it's like also it's your own dick and it's a really uncomfortable position. So I was like, I'm glad I can do this and I'm never going to do anything with this again. I just wanted to see if I could. No way I could.
I was
now.
never that interested in it because it was the same phenomenon of like jerking off. It's like my own hand. It's like you can't get rid of the fact that it's just me, myself, and I. Like I don't think it would feel, even if I mastered the art of the blowjob. Like
Yeah,
I don't think
exactly.
it would feel that good.
Also, again, words cannot describe how uncomfortable the position itself is. So
Wait, Nick, what was your methodology?
fucking bending
Oh,
over.
I did the
Did you
opposite.
do the legs over the head?
I went legs over head.
Wow,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, back pre-squat days when I had flexible hammies.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
can't
These days
fucking-
I'm like I'm made of steel cables, which isn't to say that it's shitty steel cables, but
They're
steel
rusting.
cables that aren't good at stretching.
Yeah, they're rusting bad.
Oh, Chris, I wanted to challenge you. By the way,
Please do challenge me.
I think I can out squat you by the end of the summer.
I'd probably out squat me right now.
Dude, he's
I haven't
on
lifted a weight in,
anti-steroids.
like,
Yeah, well, we're changing
5
that
months.
tonight. By the way,
No.
You got to see the home gym.
If I lift on alcohol,
I spent
am
way too
positive
much money.
I will injure myself.
No, dude,
I just
You'll be
spent
fine.
Dead.
You'll be
Way
fine.
too, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
I've done way
It's fine.
dumber shit, way drunker.
The thing is,
In
I'll
the
enjoy
gym.
it for like 20 seconds, and I'll be like, I'm tired. And stuff.
No, you won't. We'll get you hyped. Alex
fine.
and I have like Alex, I and Greg. Dude,
but
yeah, we'll cut that.
Not
but,
important.
I will cut
It
that.
doesn't-
I will put in the work. the
doesn't
long
matter.
Grinding hours.
yeah, I'll bet you will.
Yeah.
I'll throw you some money.
No, I mean, it's like it's fun. It doesn't actually take me that long, and
You
again,
just
I
need
have
a
an unlimited amount of
sponsor,
time.
dude.
Unlimited time.
Just get a sponsor.
I have too
You don't
much
have to
time.
worry about this. Alex, how's the kratom treating you? Is it kicked in?
I
yet?
haven't noticed anything.
Yeah, I didn't have any.
All right, guys. So what has been ailing you this past week?
I've had a good week, so it's like bad
me too.
podcast time. So like
Damn
it's tough to get into. I mean, it's I'm amped up to do it, but I don't have a lot of like deep shit that I want to get into right away. You'd have to pry me before we could get into it. Alex, how's your week been?
It's been fine. I moved across the state for the hell of it because I was bored. So
The
that's
joys
cool.
of working remotely.
the
man.
joys of working remotely.
I hate to be a dick here, but can you really call it a move if it's for a month?
It's not a move per se, but I am living somewhere else for a month.
Yeah.
If I put it
It's
that
not
way,
a
does that make you-
vacation.
Does that make you happy? Yeah, it's definitely not a vacation.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not that I'm bothered by you saying it. It's just like the nerves of moving and being like, oh shit, I just made a massive life commitment, and you like never really realize how big of a commitment it is until you're there. It's not like quite that feeling.
Yeah,
because
no, it's,
you're
it's,
doing-
maybe
no,
there-
it's for sure not
I mean,
bad.
obviously, I haven't made any big moves, but maybe there is something to be said for the fact that, like, I think a lot of the anxiety that comes from moving also comes from, like, usually it is accompanied by starting a new job, right? And so if you're moving while working remotely, maybe that almost makes it, I don't know, less bad, because it's like you have the sense of stability if you're still working at the same place. And so the only thing that's changed is just where you live, which honestly sounds fucking lit, because you get all the cool parts of moving, of like, I get a new place to explore, with none of the downsides of like, we're gonna get to work in a new company, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I just work out of
If
my
it wasn't
room.
such a fucking hassle to be like changing apartments all the time, I mean, that would be the fucking life. Would be to just have
Well,
a
if you live
remote
like a
job and
hermit.
just move everywhere. I can't fucking do it because of my fucking recording gig. Shit takes like a week to set up. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe one day I'll get famous enough to have people fucking moving my shit around. I didn't. This is so boring. No, not gonna go there. Never mind. We don't need to talk about Paul McCartney. That's boring.
how is, we established you had a good week.
Yeah, it's been like boring in a good way. Just like been like productive and enjoying my shit, and all my sports teams have been winning, which has like way too much of an impact on my day-to-day mood outside of the viewing of my sports teams, which is
That's
like
funny to me, because I absolutely do not understand that on any level.
Just let him talk, Nick.
No, I know. I think it's so interesting. Like, so
Yeah.
why, like, what are the feelings that are elicited when, let's say, your sports teams don't do well?
a massive increase in day-to-day anxiety, and my sense, my feeling of like having things to be hopeful for is like way too correlated with how well, like if my sports team has a bad week, it's like not just am I not hopeful about the future of my sports team, it's like everything about my life loses, like my sense of hope of achieving things like goes, I have to work way harder to feel motivated. And when the teams are doing well, it's just like everything's fucking, like going out and challenging myself genuinely becomes way easier. There's something about it where it's just like they're fucking vibing. And it really what it is it wouldn't be the same thing if it was just me. I mean, this is the one reason I can't actually really commit to leaving social media permanently, is like it's not like family in the sense that I would say I like love these people, but like the community of fans who are diehard fans and watch every single game. It's like sort of like what you're saying, where only we can it's just like we're this weird, unique. A lot of people watch sports. Not everyone watches every single game of their favorite team. I mean, particularly like baseball, there's 162 games, and I watch every single one.
Are you into baseball as well?
Baseball is my favorite sport.
Really?
by
I
a
thought it was
mile.
hockey.
No, hockey's up there. It's my second favorite. Baseball and hockey are like way up there, and then basketball and football, like whatever.
So let me ask, like, how, if you had to give a percentage to it, how much of it is like the just pure enjoyment of watching the game? And I don't even mean just like the vibes around the game. I mean purely from a technical perspective, watching the game, and how much of it is all of that other peripheral afterglow, if you will.
It's really hard to separate the two, right? So think about, not that it's a perfect analogy, but think about something that you're really active in online, like what it could be fucking steroid forums on Reddit, right? Like,
Right.
When you are just in love with something, and there's a shared understanding that
I just
everyone
want to
around
be clear to the audience.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm not
not
saying
as
you were
into
in love with
steroid
steroids.
forums as Chris is.
I just
sports.
don't know.
But
what,
no.
I don't know what
I
your.
see. Carry on.
I mean, bad example.
No,
But
no,
like
no. I
when
get
it's a shared understanding of like, okay, so here's how I'll describe it. Like with baseball, right? So I am a just diehard Yankees fan. So of course the people who I follow closely are all Yankee fans, but I also follow a bunch of just general baseball fans and fans of other teams. And so here's the fun in it is think about the fun feeling of like debating on like the highest level a topic, just any topic, and then you get to something like baseball where you've got a roster full of 30 guys and you are day in and day out looking at just hundreds and hundreds of different statistics, trying to argue and sort of narrative ball your way into getting into debates with other fans of other teams that your player is better than their player. And so then it's like the fun of the game is like of course I care most about my team winning, but when a player who's like I think is underrated or something, right, has a good game, the high of like all my friends coming together to just like sort of fun bully other like the fans of the other team. It's like a community. It's like this is fucking exciting as shit. And it's just, I don't know, it's fun. It's like you can feel really smart or really dumb based on how even though, because so much of like statistics, right, is not about looking at individual. You would never look at an individual game to decide whether or not a player is good. But so much of this like debate shit online is just like the day-to-day of baseball, because they play every day. It's like a player has a good game and then the whole fucking fan base is just like uniting together over how cool it is, and they're like, yeah, we saw this coming because of all these numbers that we were looking at and you were ignoring. I don't know, it's just like it's that shit. So it's more than just the love of the game. It's like, all right, this guy is the third backup on the bench and I am willing to die on the hill that he's better than your starter or something. Like, and we just go to war over like these just meaningless players, frankly. I mean, all the way up to the superstars. And so then what it turns into is just it's this massive like obsession over all it's a bunch of stat nerds who like enjoy the actual fun of it. And then on top of it, for the most part, people who have the like obsession where it's past just like being a fan, where, you know, I feel compelled to watch every single game. Generally speaking, we have some very strong emotional tie with our childhood and that team. And so for me, it's like my dad, the thing I remember way more than anything else with my dad is baseball. And my dad was a historian of the game and of the New York Yankees franchise in just a remarkable way. He knew everything about the team and the players well before he was even born. And then, of course, I was born in 96, and the Yankees won the World Series in 96, 98, 99, and 2000. So I've got this, like, I grew up with, like, the most beloved Yankees, and Derek Jeter is, like, the fucking hero of New York City and whatever. So, and then, so it's just, like, even if I hadn't lost my dad, like, the memory we have, like, most people, not everyone, unfortunately, but most people have a few things that we don't remember perfectly, but we remember like the emotional highs of like things that were really cheerful and peaceful, and that feeling of like being so lost in a game when you're a kid and not caring about all this other shit. Like, what is the point? You're never asking what is the point of this. You're just lost in the fucking game. And so it's like it's reverting back to the kid in me who can just get fucking lost in it and it's the only thing I can do. Even music doesn't fully do this for me. Like, watching a Yankees game removes all the anxiety of like the other shit, like the existential shit that I'm thinking about on a day-to-day. It's just, here I am, a fucking kid again, listening to the same guy who's been calling Yankee games for my whole life. And it's like this, and it's a feeling of, on top of that, this is the last thing I'll say because I've rambled for a really fucking long time, but it's like, there aren't many things in your life that remain absolutely constant. And so to have the same guy my whole lifetime, it's been the same exact guy doing the TV calling play-by-play and the same exact guy doing the radio play-by-play. So I've got all these memories of like falling asleep on my couch to Michael Kay and John Sterling's voices. And so when I hear them now, it is the most, there is nothing that brings me a more of a sense of just like than just hearing them talk baseball. So I could probably keep going on and on and on, but yeah, that's that's how I would begin to describe my fucking love for sports. But unfortunately, it does come with like, oh shit, you got a big presentation at work. Well, the Yankees just got swept by the Red Sox. So, you know what? What's the fucking point of study? Like, I'll go in, like, it has too much of an effect on my like day to day in a way that it shouldn't. And it's hard because you can't explain it to someone who isn't that way. And so there's no... One thing that's caused me a massive amount of stress and that I like about the community so much is this feeling of like, we all, on some level, when you're that big of a fan, you would rather stay at home and watch the game than go do almost anything. And that isn't really socially acceptable in most circumstances. And so this feeling of understanding of like, okay, we don't need to fucking justify this to each other, that like this is our day-to-day like life, is really, it's just like, it's genuinely like, for the most part, really fucking positive vibes. And that isn't like a common thing in day-to-day life. I feel like everything's negative as shit. So yeah, that's my sports fandom. But it does, yeah, it has too much of it. People who talk sports for a living talk about this a lot. Like they need to go to like therapy to talk about, like, figure out the shit. Like they're like, this has too much, like this can't be getting in the way of my marriage, like how my sports team is doing. But it is. And like, I don't know how to fix it. And so that is the downside of this whole fucking thing.
Well, I think if someone had described that to me a long time ago, I probably would have taken sports fans a lot more seriously, because that is a feeling that, at least as it relates to sports, I don't think I will ever understand. Like, even if there is a sport that I end up getting into, I'm never going to be that into it. Mm-hmm. But it makes sense, at least. Like, I can think of a couple other things that make me feel similar ways, you know? And so it's like, well, fuck, man. Like, I remember, and even like our little brother, Greg, like, he's not that into sports as much as you are. But I remember once his girlfriend broke up with him and the Patriots lost the Super Bowl in the same weekend. Mm-hmm. And he came in, and he was in like 8th grade. Like, it was like an 8th grade. It wasn't like serious, but he like came into my room as I was doing homework. I was like a senior in high school, and he was like, yeah, like the Patriots just lost. I was like, that sucks. He's like, yeah, my girlfriend broke up with me. I was like, what are you more sad about? He's like, probably the Patriots. And it was like, at the time I was like, man, I guess he didn't care about his girlfriend, but maybe he did. And at the time he just felt like that.
And that's why Greg hates football now.
Yeah, exactly.
But it seems like a really like strong element is kind of like a nostalgic part of it for you, Chris, right?
Yeah.
Nick, what is there anything that kind of gets you in that same way, or like hits on a similar emotional level from a nostalgia point of view?
Like, honestly, not real. Like, the, you know,
do you guys have any, this might help too, do you have any like places that you went on like vacation or anything like that when you were young that you just you remember just like positive shit? Do you have that
pretty much, more or less?
Yeah, it's sort of like that feel, like,
yeah,
it's like I can experience that on a day-to-day basis, this like revert back to
I think in order to understand what you're talking about, in my head I'm kind of combining the way partially the way that I feel about politics and like, you know, like when you talk about like the like debate and kind of like the just the fire and the going to war. And I mean, you guys, because you feel the same way, you know how that can feel when it comes to politics, which inarguably matter more, but like I could see how on an emotional level sports can almost be more powerful, because I'm also combining that feeling with, again, the nostalgia that I hold for certain people and places. And it's like, fuck, like if I combine those two feelings together, like I could absolutely see how that could be so powerful, you know? So again, I'll never understand it as it relates to sports, but I think I probably have some idea of the feelings that you're talking about. And it's interesting to hear, because obviously, as you said, you are far from the only person who feels that way, right? Like a lot of people feel that way. And I had always just written it off as like, bro, fucking relax. But like, you know, when you put it like that, I get it.
I mean, it's, there's no, and certain people like in my family get it and others don't. And it's a constant, it's weird, like how much it fucking comes up. And it's caused tension between my mom and her sister, because my mom is a diehard Red Sox fan and her sister just can't comprehend what it is to enjoy a single second of watching any sport. And so like that back and forth of like my aunt will like get like not coming from like a bad place, but she will get like upset when the conversation turns towards sports because she it like to her it's like this like it's like we're intentionally choosing to talk about a topic that which she knows nothing about and therefore can't contribute a single. It's like she feels like it's like an exclusion thing. It's like she feels like she's not being invited to the party when we talk about sports at a family thing. And like fair, and I don't want to. My mom and her sister had all sorts of shit growing up. I mean, who doesn't? But not between the two of them really, but just general family dynamics. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing, and it's like when my mom, for someone who really struggles to talk about, again, not alone in this. I'm a young dude who, on top of being a young dude, also lost a parent when I was young. So it's like multiplied about talking about my feelings and all that. So I have a really hard time talking about my dad with my mom. It's really difficult for me to have those conversations. And sort of one of my ways of expressing that is like talking about baseball as like a stepping stone to getting into conversations about wanting to learn more about my dad. Like
makes sense.
So it like helps me bring up the topic without just being like, hey, can we talk about dad right now?
Yeah.
And she has, she found the person who she wanted to be with for the rest of her life, had her 3 kids. Life wasn't perfect, but she also it's not surprising, but she has a massive amount of nostalgia for before my dad died. Like there's just a level of base anxiety and stress that exists no matter what post that.
Right. Of course.
That wasn't there beforehand. And so there's for all of us. And my brother and sister, unfortunately, don't really have any really tangible memories of my dad. So I also feel really nervous bringing up those conversations in front of my brother and sister because I'm super anxious about making them feel excluded, that like I have these memories of my dad and I'm the only kid who does. And so being able to talk about baseball with my mom, like when the two of us are alone, it's just a really calming thing. And like my mom, when her parents got divorced and it was a fucking shit show, she bonded with her her stepbrother like taught her baseball and she became obsessed, and it was like her peaceful, like she made this bond with our uncle Sean that was like, it was like he fucking like he was the one constant in her life from a young age. So she's got this emotional attachment to the Red Sox, and then down and down and down the chain goes. And my dad has a similar thing with the Yankees and all that shit.
So that's kind of like poetic right there. It's like a Montague and Capulet situation. Your mom and your dad.
My there was in 2003, the Yankees and Red Sox were playing in the semifinals, and the Red Sox had not won a World Series at that point since they had traded Babe Ruth in the 19-teens or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was Game 7, and the Red Sox had a lead, and the Yankees hit a home run to win it in like the 10th inning or something. And my dad went straight to... My mom will always tell this story. She's like, it hadn't... We'd been able to bond over our shared love of baseball, but that experience, like, they couldn't talk about it after it happened. Like, because my dad just went upstairs and went to bed and went to work the next day. Like, the Yankees had just won 4 World Series in the past couple of years. Like, for him, he's like, oh, yeah, we're winning. Like, whatever. And her whole life had never experienced a win. And she was so, like, heartbroken that night, she couldn't really sleep. And she'll be like, yeah, it's this crazy thing that, like, one of the reasons we bonded was over our shared love of baseball and the fact that when we met, both of our dogs were named after baseball-related things. And it was like, when that happened, it was like, we could never, until the day he died, like, we never talked about that night again because it was so, like, emotionally traumatic.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, we can move on from sports. That's enough sports talk.
Well, it's not really sports at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know how much of that conversation was actually about sports. I think that was a pretty interesting deep dive.
It was like meta sports.
It was about, like, finding community and nostalgia and, like, kind of, like, finding a sense of meaning through things that maybe you're not quite directly involved with but still matter in some way.
I feel like that kind of goes back to our conversation from last week of, like, sports are... objectively, okay. Well, I don't even want to say objectively. Sports are like, when you think about it quickly, meaningless, right? Like they don't actually change. They don't better. They're not creating anything, you know, yeah, sports are meaningless, right? Like it's just a thing that we do for fun. But when you think about how many people like you's lives are materially affected by sports, it's like, well, like, are they meaningless? Like, again, all of this is meaningless. And so if that creates meaning for people, like, is it meaningless? Like, yeah. I would argue probably not.
I mean,
I probably, like, an hour ago would have argued yes.
Insecure with my emotions guy. When I'm at a Yankees game, and I've been to a few Yankees games where they've had crazy comebacks, and when you're surrounded by other diehard fans, it's like all of a sudden, insecurity's just gone. Like I'm hugging strangers left, right, and center, and high-fiving everyone, and there's this shared like, it's a real break from like our day-to-day life for the most part. Fucking sucks a lot of the time, and here we are, bonding over this fucking team that we've decided that we all fucking care about, and it's just like it feels, it's like sports are the only thing in my life that feels sort of like at times can be like when people talk about like pride of being an American or like loving their community, like I've never felt any of that shit. Sports is the only time I've felt that shit,
right?
Where it's like people I don't know, it's like we totally respect each other without having to say a word to each other because we know what this team means to both of us. And so it's just an instantaneous connection with someone where you're like, okay, yeah, okay, you get it. Like,
right.
We fucking get it. And we can talk, and we could talk baseball for hours. And for someone who doesn't know how to talk to fucking people, it's like, okay, dope. You're a sports addict. Like, great, because then I know how to fucking talk to you.
You've got like an in.
It's also, I will say, it's one of the few things in probably the world, but in America, where it genuinely is just about the fucking talent. Like, it's not, there's all sorts of real problems with owner-worker, sort of worker-player, owner-player relationships that are totally analogous to what you see with when we talk about criticizing Jeff Bezos and all that shit. There's the same dynamics going on where the owners they don't care about the players and they treat them as fucking property, and it's disgusting. But as far as just like getting playing time and making it to the show, like it is one of the few things in the United States that genuinely allows like just as an example, like African Americans, it's like it is one of the few areas of like that you can make a career out of where genuinely, if you're good enough, you're gonna make it, and there's no barriers to. I mean, there's the social and economic barriers of growing up and access to equipment and being able to play and being in school, which supports a team and all that shit.
That's your point. Like, it's not like, in order to make it in investment banking, you have to be like, go to this private school and go to,
it's like, if you're fucking better than this white dude, then we don't give a, like in a backwards way, sort of, because the owner's like, well, it'll make me more money to have a better player. It's sort of the incentive is sort of weird, but like it ends up kind of working out where for the most part, just the best players are the ones playing. And so it feels like this fucking thing that I was sold on as a kid as what the United States of America is like actually kind of in some way, not perfectly, plays out in sports. And that's like inspiring to hear the stories about the kids who grow up in abject poverty, who grinded, and because they're so fucking good at this, they actually were given an opportunity to become a superstar and like really famous and whatever. I don't know. It's cool shit.
It is cool shit.
I think it's cool shit.
Yeah. It's important to have real meritocracy. It's hard to come by.
It is fucking hard to come by.
Also, like this is kind of moving away from sports. But
no, I'm happy to move away from it.
When it comes to like a meritocracy, right, is like, what does that ultimately mean? Because ultimately, when you look at all of these athletes, I'm not gonna take away any of the grinding that they do, but just what you're given genetically and depending on the sport, play a massive role, right? Right? Yeah. And that's kind of the case with a lot of things, right? Of like even like fucking intelligence, right? There's definitely a genetic component. And so it's like, okay, but if our goal is a meritocracy, like, is that even better? Because you don't choose what you're born with.
Yeah, I think a meritocracy only works if there's kind of like some kind of like social safety net.
Yeah, meritocracy only works if like the consequences of losing aren't that, like the consequences of losing the meritocracy of sports is you don't go pro.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, cool, whatever. But like,
there needs to be other shit available to people where it genuinely, in theory, right, there are lots of career paths which, if true, yeah, I mean, talking about merit, it's sort of weird, right? It's like talking about fucking equilibrium and intro econ course. It's like this like fake thing.
It doesn't really
exist. It can't really ever exist.
Yeah, there's a book, the Meritocracy Trap, which have you read that?
I have not.
All right. Well, it's pretty good. Essentially just, how like the American lie of meritocracy is in fact a lie. And it touches a little bit on like what even is a meritocracy and like, could it ever be real? And even if it could, is that a good thing? But, yeah.
I mean, denying, but it's, I don't know. I mean, it's a tough thing, and it plays out in all aspects of like in music, right? There are people born with perfect pitch. It's like a 1 in a million thing to happen, and those people are very disproportionately likely to be able to make it as musicians because they don't have to. It helps for them to study the music theory, but in a way that like someone like me who's obsessed with music and wants to turn it into a career, I can't listen to the music that I like and hear the notes that are being played and then immediately translate it into my own music. And someone with perfect pitch can just, they don't have to learn the music theory of here's when to use a fucking subdominant chord or whatever the hell. Like,
it's just intuitive because they can hear it.
Yeah, it's sort of intuitive. They just like they hear something they like and they're like, all right, that's an F chord, then a C. Like they can hear the notes and then just do it. And so there's like those people are disproportionately represented in the music scene.
Yeah.
As are the 0.1% in the the fitness community and sports and probably on some. It's just that like with intelligence, it's so much harder to distinguish between.
It's so much harder to decompose the variable that is intelligence to like different kind of like sub variables, right? Because like we say intelligence,
that's like the issue with the IQ test. Is that's literally they were trying to distill it down to what they called G, right, for general intelligence. Yeah. That was the variable that they decided. And it's like, bro, G doesn't fucking exist.
Like it's not a real thing.
G, or it. I mean, depending on how we want to chop it up, G is anywhere between not real and like 100 different things, right?
We so also like, aren't positive. We, philosophers, psychologists, scientists, whatever, have been debating forever, right? How much of that is affected by environment versus just genetics? Whereas with something like athleticism, assuming one isn't like severely malnourished or something, right? Like when you're 25 and you're 6'7", that's not environment.
Right,
like that just happened,
or just like
your genetics and your parents. And
right.
And so no one's looking at a 6'7". A conservative can't even like sit up there and be like, it's unfair that the black whatever. Like just
Devin Booker, if you just like just eat your weeds and
fucking the thought of Ben Shapiro playing sport. Oh my god.
But he was a musician, to his credit. Which again,
he's a
is it really credit? I don't know.
I mean, when you're forced to do it, music is like any fucking artistic skill. It's so over dramatized. That's not even the right word I'm looking for. But it's like overplayed how much genetics play a role in it. It's like what it is really is whether or not your parents sort of forced it upon you at a young age, because it's like. it's the same exact thing with learning a foreign language, where if you're from a very young age exposed to multiple different languages, you're way more prone to be fluent and to learn them fast and to remember them, as opposed to if you're 20 and haven't tried to learn a foreign language yet and start, then you just won't. It'll take forever to catch up. Right. Brain's already fucking wherever. So it's the same shit with music. It's like his dad was a violinist or whatever, so he forced Ben to be a good little Jew who plays his violin and goes to Harvard. And yeah,
it worked out, and honestly, good for him if he wasn't a piece of shit now.
Did it work out?
Well, yeah, he's produced such great films as What Is a Woman?
Was he a producer on that?
Well, it's Daily Wire. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you? No, we're not allowed to talk about that. But also, speaking of this one, we are allowed to talk about. Have you seen that? Like, the Daily Wire is not just making like political films like that. They're making like they want to be like Hollywood films.
Yeah.
Like horror movies and shit.
Yeah. They're making a horror movie right now.
The trailer
Nancy Pelosi is the monster.
Dude, I actually probably will watch that just purely out of curiosity. Just to see what is there, because they're they're obviously a political organization. So
it's going to be very political.
There's going to be maybe it'll even be subtle. Wouldn't that be crazy? It won't be, but maybe, right? And so like I want to see like how politically coded is this, and like what are they getting at? Like, is it like, oh no, it's a monster that you can't tell if it's a man or a woman? Yeah, like, okay.
Mommy, there's someone in my closet.
Mommy, there's a she-male in my room. Like, all right, Ben, relax. Pump the brakes.
What is going to be, and I'm going to find myself for this because this is exactly the kind of path I don't want to go down this podcast. But what is going to make me laugh on a political note is how much these motherfuckers complain about wokeness like ruining media, and like there's no good like movies or TV anymore because of like wokeness or whatever. And this film is going to be nothing but just like right-wing wokeness, and it's going to just be cringe and blatant.
Yeah.
But like, this mom is alone, and it's because she married a guy who had sex before they were married, and he left because that's
because of welfare.
Yeah, or something, whatever. And it's gonna be like, okay, Jesus fucking Christ. So, anyways, that's all I will say. I'm gonna find myself $5 for that. I'll Venmo one or something.
Pay your tax.
Yeah.
Christ.
Pay my taxes as if.
Imagine paying
Fuck
taxes.
that shit, bro.
We should become a libertarian podcast. I think that'd be really cool.
Dude, I was reading about I was curious, like, what is the libertarian stance on climate change? And I couldn't find much that made a whole lot of sense.
Libertarians,
they haven't gotten that far.
No,
yet.
they
have the capacity to have an opinion on climate.
Yeah, like, I mean, insofar as their ideology doesn't really allow.
Because it's not
It's
really
like,
something
if we
that's
just
like
expand property rights to go like infinitely high and infinitely low, then that means like if you're polluting and it like gets into someone else's property, then you're on the hook for it. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, maybe that's not a bad idea, but I don't know why that's.
And then
like,
who's going to enforce the property rights?
well,
guys?
exactly. And also like they were like, oh, the issue is that there's like that there is common land, because if you can just like pull shit from the ground and, you know, doesn't fucking matter because it's, or, you know, fishing, or, you know, they give a bunch of examples. Like if all the land was owned, that would control it. It's like, yeah, would it? Or would the same shit happen, but some people would just get really rich from it? All right, whatever. Thanks. First of all, why are there so many... Whatever, we should say that because it is kind of political, but
keep going.
Why are so many fucking think tanks? Why are they all libertarian? Like whenever I find like some
fucking Ayn Rand, everyone's like,
but like
Ayn Rand. I read the book and it was super long, and now I know how to work hard.
That's thanks for distilling libertarian philosophy down so simply and eloquently, because from what I understand, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I really think that's it. Okay. I will never forget my grandma one day, or not one day, for one of my birthdays, gave me whatever the fuck her two
Atlas
most famous
Shrugged.
books are.
Atlas
like-
Shrugged and the fucking the
Yeah,
monolith.
the Fountainhead.
it's
I was like,
whatever.
I was like, do you know, you are someone who has voted blue your whole life. Do you know what you just gave me? Like,
You thought of this for 5 seconds. Okay, but you're going to slight the contributions of an Asian woman to political discourse.
Brand is not white.
She's
In my head, she's like
She's from
the
Russia.
well,
ideal
she's from
soccer
Russia,
mom.
and Russia is Asia.
is from Asia.
Russia is from Asia.
Confirmed.
Damn, get owned, Putin. Get
You're fucking Asian, bitch.
She's a person of color.
Putin is literally a POC, and if you're saying what he's doing is wrong, you're not an anti-racist.
You're not an anti-imperialist like me. I actually recognize as based when Russia invades Ukraine. Okay, we got to stop. We got to stop. We're getting too political.
All right, should we hit one serious topic before we end this shit? Let's hit a real fucking thing real quick. Let's bang it out. Let's admit something we've never admitted.
Oh God.
I don't know if I can do that.
I
haven't admitted.
I don't know what I haven't admitted on here. Chris is like giving us so much information about his butthole that I feel like we owe him something.
No, it's fine because I don't.
I mean, we just
I get
admitted
way
that
more
we
nervous
both
talking about
sucked
a
our
lot of
own
other
dicks,
things.
so I don't know. That's
Yeah, but like, who hasn't?
which
tried?
is really poetic when you
I
think
have
about
not.
the content of this podcast. But
Oh God.
I think we're self-aware of the fact that we're sucking our own dicks.
Okay, here's the thing. Is
yeah,
that,
but it
like,
still makes me cringe.
you know,
It's better than someone who like. It's better than someone like the recent one I'm on is the fucking Modern Wisdom guy. Like it's so much better than someone who people who genuinely believe that their ideas are unique to them and that they need to get them out there, and like so they take the podcast super seriously. Like that will forever be so much more cringe than anything we ever do. Because none of us think that we have something new to say.
Here's the thing: is that the
then
world
why
can
are we
be
doing
basically
this?
broken down. This is what I have new to say.
Fair.
The world can be broken down into two types of people: smart fellas and fart smellers.
You fucked up the punchline.
I broke a little bit, but we're fart smellers and we know it.
Gayest thing I've ever heard in my life.
No, but you know,
There's
I'm
no
right.
way we just made a fart joke on this podcast.
No, that's where we have
Are
to
you
end it.
kidding me? Okay,
Cut
there's
there.
episode 3, the fart smellers.
We did it right.
Man, that was really good, guys.
That might have been the worst podcast of all time.
I actually thought your
No, it
takes
was
on
fun. It might
sports
actually
and
be
stuff
really fun.
were pretty interesting.
Dude, we were really loose.
Good.
Oh.